The legendary suckling pig of Segovia. Local saying, if you have tried every delicious food in the world but the legendary suckling pig of Segovia, you will feel sorry in your whole life. The legendary suckling pig of Segovia. 2 nights at one of Spain's culinary capitals, and we ended up sampling Segovia's celebrated cochinillos, i.e. roasted suckling pigs, at 3 different restaurants. For those who would be queasy about seeing a whole slaughtered piglet, or a quartered piglet served on a plate, you should return to the previous post now. But for adventurous foodies planning a visit to Madrid and vicinity, you would be missing an amazing gastronomic experience if you skip Segovia. Dozens of competing restaurants all claiming to serve the best cochinillos in Segovia, and this restaurant was our choice. And honestly, if we ever revisit Segovia, we would be back in a heartbeat. Diners entering El Sitio would first pass through a typical tapas bar downstairs occupied by a raucous local clientele, watching La Liga matches on TV and munching on your standard deep-fried croquetas and pinchos de tortillas while downing endless canas of beer. But that's not what we're here for. We headed straight upstairs to a fancier restaurant with limited seats, and that's why we had suckling pigs 3 times in different forms. Restaurante El Sitio, Segovia. Ask for the menu. No, I don't mean the menu book. In Spain, men typically refers to what might be called said menu or prix, a multi-course meal typically including bread and alcoholic drinks for a discounted price. Most restaurants in Segovia offer the famous cochinillo within such meals, and El Sitio is no exception. Well, except the waiters didn't automatically provide that menu sheet, especially to non-Spanish-speaking clients. I had to specifically summon our waiter and ask for it, at which point he produced his sheepish grin and showed us their menu tipico Segoviano. How much of a difference in price are we talking? We're talking a full feast of local Segovian favorite, from the pictured Judy ones de la Granja to the legendary November 22nd, 2024, Tio, the locally celebrated dessert of Ponche Segoviano, plus bread charge, a glass of local red or white, and including tax, for just a few euros more than ordering the main dish of suckling pig on its own. The waiters must be getting a cut on the nightly profit. Otherwise, why would they hide this excellent deal from clueless non-Spanish tourists? Appetizers such as the pictured sopa castellana offered a window into the philosophy behind traditional Segovian cuisine, starchy with a heavy dose of protein and fat for those cold wintry nights on the windswept Castilian plains. As if the chunks of jamon serrano and croutons weren't filling enough, the locals also throw in a poached egg for an 18th century version of a protein shake. I love suckling pigs in a multitude of culinary traditions, Cantonese, Spanish, or Filipino, which all seem to converge at contrasting that melt-in-your-mouth tenderness of the flesh versus the thunderous crunchiness of the skin. Whenever I stop over in Hong Kong, I always try to get my fix for Cantonese yuju, and this time in Spain. Well, you get the idea. The Segovian version sounds deceivingly simple, yet extremely tricky. Brine a suckling pig in salt water before air-drying overnight, and roasting it in a specially designed oven. While the meat stays soft and astoundingly juicy, more so than the Cantonese or Filipino version, the fat melts away to reveal an amazingly thin and brittle crackling that some restaurants show off by cutting the suckling pig with a ceramic plate. When my wife showed the above picture to her co-workers, one even asked if the piglet was covered in pastry. That's how incredibly crispy the skin turned out. Once again, for any readers planning on visiting Madrid, do your taste buds a favor and don't miss this gastronomic experience. As if the suckling pig wasn't filling enough, we were also served an elaborate local dessert known as Ponche Segoviano. Despite the name, it is not a punch, but a sweet multi-layered cake soaked in light syrup, filled with custard cream, topped with a coat of marzipan and typically decorated with a lattice of burnt sugar. The drenching of white and dark chocolate on the plate here was hardly necessary, as the cake itself was sweet enough. As we finished our rice pudding, our neighboring table of 4 English speakers received their bill in the range of 230 euros, if I was mistaken, for the same range of dishes and a few glasses of wine, but ordered a la carte. We asked for ours, and it worked out to exactly 25.3 euros per person, taxes included. While the suckling pig was well worth the money, I must advise readers again to not let sneaky waiters get in the way of a better deal. Ask for the menu. Bill for 2 persons. Menu Tipico Segoviano X 250.6 euros. Total 50.6 euros. That was our first dinner of Cochinillo upon arriving at Segovia, and it turned out so addictive that we decided for an encore the next afternoon, but in a lighter meal. Restaurante Lazaro, Segovia. Just 30 down the block from El Sitio. Lazaro Restaurante is another local establishment specializing on the art of the suckling pig, as announced by its window display of air-dried specimens in the pre-roasting stage. But our main reason for selecting this place was its offering of a rack-ion of Cochinillo. Just what we needed without getting overstuffed, for 16 euros. The menu del dia presented yet another local specialty of trucha segoviana, the Segovian pan-fried trout with a sauce of diced jamon serrano and mushrooms. Main, dessert, and beer of 15 euros was a reasonable price in a tourist-oriented town. But it was the Cochinillo that we really came for. The previous night both of us received the front quarter of the younger suckling pig, as evidenced by the paper-thin skin. Here we're presented with the midsection of a slightly larger piglet, possibly rebroiled, and divided into 6 portions with the baby back ribs earmarked for our 16 euros deal. It was time to test the crispiness of the skin with a fork. The way it crunched was markedly different, but equally enjoyable. If the previous night's pork crackling exhibited the brittleness of a fine pastry, this was a harder, roaring crunch akin to kettle-fried potato chips, almost comparable to the skin of a Filipino or a Cantonese suckling pig. While I personally preferred El Sitio's version, my wife thoroughly enjoyed both and declared no winner between the two. Once more we had Ponche Segoviano for dessert, still overly sweet for my taste buds and not quite as exquisitely presented as previous night. But that's okay. The wonderful crackling of our Cochinillo had already made our day. Bill for 2 persons. Rack-ion de Cochinillo asado 16 euros. Menu del dia 15 euros. Cerveza 2.5 euros. Total 33.5 euros. For our last dinner in town we opted for a lighter meal in the form of tapas, as we had been introduced to a locally renowned taperia that featured at national tapas competitions on an annual basis. We did not purposely look for the Cochinillo. It just somehow ended on our plate. Taberna di El Fogan Sephardi, Segovia. Hidden in a narrow alley in the medieval Jewish quarter, just east of Segovia's cathedral, Fogan Sephardi is best known for its award-winning taperia that perennially represents Segovia in national tapas competitions, featuring recipes inspired by the culinary traditions of Segovia's Sephardic Jews. Note that we're reviewing the tapas bar downstairs, not the fancy restaurant upstairs with waitstaff, white tables cloth, and an upmarket set of menus, such as cochinillos in a traditional sense. Why would a Jewish-inspired restaurant be serving suckling pigs? I have no idea. But I'm certainly no expert on what's kosher, and we weren't going to ask. As usual, we started our tapas night with a couple canna of beer, which came with a couple of generously sized croquetas with a minced meat filling. The small menu was full of award-winning tapas from various years, dating back to their first national tapas competition in 2007. With my dreadful Spanish, I started picking from a list, only to be stopped by our cordial but stern waiter after the 4th tapa. That's enough for 2 people to share, and he wasn't going to see his taperia's proud creations go to waste. We started with their award-winning tapa from 2007, Molhojas de Berenjena con Cordero al Curry, layers of deep-fried eggplants smothered with a mild curry of minced lamb. This was an amazing tapa with complexity and texture for merely 3.75 euros. You absolute can't get a deal this good in Madrid. Slightly more upscale was their winning tapa from 2010, Lomo de Bacalao Superior con Crema de Ribera Gratinada, which contained a cod loin baked au gratin, served in a scallop shell with the humorous touch of a pair of walking sticks to commemorate the holy year of St. James, when tens of thousands of pilgrims traveled through Segovia en route to Santiago de Compostela. I was accustomed to paying upwards of 10 euros for bacalao for main dishes elsewhere in Spain, and this was about half the price for a sizable tapa at very respectable quality. Moving on to year 2011, Flor de Patata Bajo Pecho de Ternera al Estilo Argentino con Salsa de Aquicoria y Sherry. This was a thin slice of veal breast, served in a sherry glaze atop a bed of mashed potatoes, probably my least favorite among tonight's creative tapas, due to the relatively lower level of complexity. Last but not least, Segovia's famous Cochinillo would make its appearance once again, only in a hardly recognizable form as part of Fogan Sephardi's winning tapa from 2012, also our most expensive tapa of the night for a cheap €6. Here the suckling pig was preserved in confit form and served atop creamed vegetables with the acidity of a citrus sauce to balance the fattiness of the confit. No wonder this little taperia is winning competitions year after year. Our stern-faced waiter was right, for tapas were filling enough for the two of us. Our final bill for a gratifying dinner came to slightly over €20 for two, certainly the best deal for tapas over our 16 days in Spain, especially considering the remarkable creativity and quality of raw ingredients. Bill for 2 persons. Tapa 2007 €3.75. Tapa 2010 €5.20. Tapa 2011 €4.10. Tapa 2012 €5.95. Canis de Cerveza X2 €3.40. Total €22.4. Those were our 3 meals featuring suckling pigs in one way or another, traditional and contemporary. There was one more eatery that gave us fond memories. One that should not be a surprise to any Segovian. Confiteria El Alcazar, Segovia. Situated in the shadow of the cathedral is the most prestigious confectionery in Segovia, a 90-year-old institution reputed to have invented the Ponche Segoviano at the behest of King Alfonso back in the 1920s. Except I'm not a huge fan of the heavier Ponche Segoviano, especially in the aftermath of a glut of suckling pigs. I'm recommending something that they're not quite as famous for. If you're overstuffed like me and are craving something less rich for dessert, consider this featherlight and crunchy rosquilla, still handmade with the same love and attention that they put into their ponche, but much more manageable after the calorific feast that most visitors to Segovia can't resist. Bill for 2 persons. Rosquilla €1.5. Total €1.5. Segovia is 30 minutes from Madrid by high-speed avenue trains or 90 minutes by highway bus. More highlights of Segovia can be found in the previous post. By Paul Labels, Spain. November 22, 2024. My friend and I visited the famous Restaurante El Sitio in Segovia. Please see the map. We ordered the suckling pig naturally, French fries, bread with butter and beer. We enjoyed the delicious food and talked with each other lots in Shanghainese dialect. The bill is €62, that is $68.73. I gave the waiter €5 as his tip, compared with what Paul posted the 19th January 2018. The price of Spanish restaurant food has been surging since 2018 because of the inflation caused by the war in Ukraine. My friend got his Spanish visa with his wife. Their 2 kids are studying in a Spanish school. They may need to stay in Spain 5 years with their kids to get Spanish green card. The couple cannot work in Spain according to their visa's policy. So, my friend cannot pay such an expensive bill. I treated him to our lunch because he gave me a lot of tours in Segovia.
몇 건데요?
따로 같아요. 대서 하나로 몇 건데 있어. 이거 이제 지세봐.
매지.
매니까 까티. 이제 까또 지세. 이제 로드스로 타면 또 지지래. 이발아, 이제 로드 쪽을 접어라 다로. 이라 또 지지 대시지 봉업에 애 봉고 뚱소.两位没听到吧？5手数吧。
跟他现在都要不几辆生活了，根本是成型了。
那你说那个就是自家有嘛？是，不是那个？那个好，那个叫人一个女婿，犹太人，一个都到1年15来生的，搞继续吃，他们另外一帮继续吃，而两个就是 老大房子。阿拉有年轻人们的生命，不是属于我，属于阿拉老婆。我交关同学了，没想着改变。现在离开中国了，退休金就这个叫2金就不加了，知道吧？所以到伊拉退休我就没钞票，大多拿不着钞票，你懂吧？侬不加就没钞票，侬加一直加到侬退休就有钞票，侬断脱了不加了，侬上了美国籍也没钞票。我是辣辣捞到笔钞票，退休之后，拿到我退休金以后再上美国籍，那个不影响，你懂吧？搿不影响，因为侬是辣辣中国心里向退休的，侬享受侬中国的待遇，随后侬再上美国籍。
那么侬到美国哪能会也有退休金？
美国嘛我，
侬美国没工作过？
我工作加2年数来，我都没退休金。我加税个，每年加税，是吧？美国每年加税，加到我退休，我美国65岁，但是我大陆60岁，不同的。侬现在大陆现在高2斤啊，信号还一直要高，勿是像那同学伊就老吃亏了。伊06年17了，17级以后，伊再退休，退休了就不好了。伊只有500多块退休金，美国退休金勿高的，400块、500块不高。侬老早辣上海做啥生活？
我也是自家做生意的，开店，开店，
开店是呀，
开药房，
开药房，药房大概收入蛮高。不过现在听说讲生意老难做，
勿好。现在大陆侬讲，
交关人侪亏脱了，疫情期间啊，侪亏脱了。
一是疫情期间，中国的电商老发达，晓得伐？实体经济冲击老大。实体经济侬靠门面做生意，基本上没赚钞票。侬上海的房价又介许高，对伐？租金也老贵个，侬人各方面人力成本收上去，实体生意真的老难做。在大陆现在电商很发达，
美国嘛就是亚马逊，
亚马逊对。
美国亚马逊也老结棍个，阿拉买物事交关侪是亚马逊上买，像我这么是亚马逊上买，大疆。
大疆我记得是无人机嘛，就是大疆啊，一只品牌对吧？大疆是中国的。
中国深圳
啊。
我这么是大，我交关物事辣亚马逊上买。
侬搿只是录像机对伐？录像个对伐？
录像拍照侪可以。
搿么介小只侬迭个续航对伐？肯定续航。
勿搭界，伊勿是穷了，伊勿是这个无人机了，无人机我也有，也大疆。无人机我没带出来，因为地方勿熟悉了，我飞到都没得些，讨厌了，是吧？Bien, thank you。有你讲。
搿账号已经相当结棍了。侬等于 50了。
哎，我总的价股票一路要赚了差不多。我是3年之前只有6万美金，现在已经要现在要17、18万了。
哦，侪是靠炒股。葛末迭个股市投资蛮好。
好，
哦，
美国股市、房市侪好，房市也好，
哦，
但是买了少，对伐？股市、房市，我可以熬得大班子、小班子，对伐？我一般做个是拉脚，也可以 X 拉脚，再拨侬 L。最近吃个物事真的是咖啡老少，对对。
我其实也就去年出来的，但是今年出来的。
哎，拨侬弄着勿，蛮好个，蛮用到蛮好个。啊，据说讲现在蛮难了是伐？
对。
我兄弟姐妹还辣上海个，但是伊拉勿肯出来，伊拉
啥地方？
住了啥个地方我也勿大清楚。浦东区一个浦东区个闵行区啥个。
哦。
侬住辣啥区啊？
我是嘉陵区。
哦，嘉陵。阿拉好像阿拉阿弟好像是蛮烦个出来，要到派出所去办案了啥个了，复杂得勿得了。公民，侬公民侬勿办案，要是把派出所捉着了，阿拉大事体来了，对伐？
那侬违规要赔我啊？
勿公民要办案，要到派出所去，要去报到，一下飞机就要去。
哦。
一个人伊上坡路高门高头，阿拉伊勿得讲，阿拉勿参与政治个。那么侬勿办案，被有人个讨厌，对伐？那么再讲大陆嘛，阿拉生长中也没啥特别东西，对伐？这个老习惯，我蛮习惯生活来自己生活得蛮好的。好像吃卤猪人蛮多，你看这个样子。
不是啊，不多啊。
不是卤猪。
卤猪属于大餐了，它这个属于大餐了。你看26是属于最大的。
大概是这样哦。
对。
从西边啊吃个么是便宜。
他们消费
搿么是老是我辣辣美国，阿拉老婆跟我吃一顿哦，也要40-50块，老平常哦。
老平常要40-
40-50，加上消费交关嘛，消费阿拉老婆。拿个人侪要面子呀，50%以内消费呀，侬勿可能少个呀，至少两家头吃顿好点10块过不了，差一点嘛，你讲我本人嘛就一家头嘛就5块，对伐？
刚没去。
我随便他们吃一顿，如果要毛1块，1块，就是中国餐馆去吃，我也要靠合同1块，因为12块多，对伐？再加上3、14、5块，14、5块我还有只零头我就不要了。This lunch, a table for two, totally 68, almost 69 US dollar, and similar to 62 euro. Very good. Apple Pay.
Oh.
Apple Pay. Trở về. Have a nice day。
拜拜。
我都起来一看，哦哟，天老好。哦，蛮好蛮好个饭店，么子便宜。哎呀，西班牙实际老好地方。我这个人，我讲对不啦？我本身是教书嘛，侬讲对伐？一，我勿吃毒品，美国毒品老多，对伐？我讲我勿。我从来辣美国介许多年，数年轻年没上过一点毒品。第二，勿赌，华人老欢喜赌个，晓得伐？赌博了，啊，他别怪有呀，侬乱七八糟酒吧里向一夜情啊，老多个。酒吧嘛，美国酒吧嘛，就是一夜情个交易所，对不啦？但是我勿欢喜。